I wanted to clarify something I said in one of the earlier videos discussing the OG clock project here, where I talked about little differences between this movement made in the most likely in the 1870s and this movement here made sometime after the mid 1880s. And it's the correcting device that's provided here, where you can resynchronize. Since it's a count wheel strike, allows you to resynchronize the striking with the hands. And on this older clock, the control lever here for the counting has a little eye bent into it for this wire here that would dangle down below the dial, and then you would push up on it to unlock it and advance it, so you can manually advance it to synchronize it. Well, on this clock, as you can see, as I pointed out, they've done away with that feature. But actually it's still there. There's another wire dangling down over there in a much less convenient spot. And it actually operates the warning and unlocking levers. And then so here's the lever right here. This is the lifting lever that the pin on the minute hand arbor lifts up once an hour and then drops it. And then this is the warning arm right here. And what happens as this raises up, it raises this part right here, lifts this lever here, the unlocking lever, and unlocks it, and then the rotation of the gear train is halted by this arm contacting that pin on the fly fan. And what they've done on the later clocks is add a piece sticking out with an eyelet on it, and that is your strike correction feature. And if you look at the count wheel, you will see that the count wheel does not agree with the time displayed by the hands. You can look at the count wheel and tell what hour was last struck. Okay, so you can see there's 12, 11, 10. So it's just struck 9. It needs to be over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to correct it, and I'll show you how this is attached. You see, on the older clock did not have springs on the levers. This one has a spring on the warning and lifting lever, which this older one here relies on gravity. And it has a little piece there with the eye on the end that the correcting wire attaches to. And on this setup, you've got to pull down on the correcting wire, and it's in a very inconvenient spot. So what you really need to do is to stop the pendulum, because you're going to bump it anyway, and then you can reach back in there and pull down on the wire. And now, as long as I've got it held down, the lever is up and it's warning, and then I let go of it. So now it's been corrected. It just struck 10, which agrees with it's after 10 o'clock. So that's an agreement now. So that's how you would correct the strike if there's any discrepancy between the hands and what hour it's striking. Of course, most people nowadays don't even bother with that. The hour hand is a friction fit on there. They'll just turn the minute hand until it strikes, and then move the hour hand to whatever hour it struck, and then just advance the minute hand and pause at each hour until they get to the time that it needs to be. This is really a better way of doing it, though, because it minimizes potential contact with the dial, which these dials are 100 years old and more now, and it's better to minimize contact with them, and it's better not to be fiddling with the hands, because oftentimes when the hands were put on, they were adjusted to maintain the right distance from one hand to the other, and by grabbing the hand and turning it, you might be pulling it further away from one hand or another, which is going to put it either closer to another hand or closer to the dial, depending on what you do. So it's not really a good idea. But I just wanted to touch on that and sort of explain how that works and the differences. Little differences like that crept in to clocks like these, even though many of the parts are still interchangeable. There's little differences. So this dial seat, this seat board I mean, is going to have a hole in it for that correction wire, and this older seat board here is going to have a staple in it for that wire to go through to guide it. Okay, so Oklahoma Bridges, we'll see you next time.